Welcome back to the news from Kazakhstan. I'm Marina Kim with the latest updates. Here are the headlines. President Nursultan Nazarbayev inspects Almaty and suburbs on the eve of Kurban Eid. Activists of the movement Kazakhstan 86 asked the head of state to bring to responsibility the opposition leader Vladimir Kozlov. The entire staff of the Cheremshanka poultry factory is striking in eastern Kazakhstan. The arrival of President Nazarbayev to Almaty began with threats. The head of state promised to deal with those who illegally placed their mansions on the way of the eastern Almaty bypass. The nation's leader said he will ask the government to find out true owners of land plots and warned that unless they will voluntarily return said plots to the state at the initial price, the authorities will confiscate them. It seems that in Kazakhstan, the confiscation of land and property rights takeover are the methods openly endorsed by the president himself.
On Monday, November 15th, during his working trip to Almaty, President Nazarbayev came to a conclusion that the construction of social facilities is hampered by the slow land acquisition. That is why all those who will not give their plots to the state on official conditions might end up doing so for free. At one point, some people somehow acquired land plots. I'm sure this was mostly done by officials. I am warning now, if these people will not return these plots for state needs at the price they bought it from the state, we will confiscate it. This is not the first time a similar warning is made. Back in 2007, during a Security Council meeting, Nazarbayev reprimanded the former Almaty mayor Imangalit Tasmagambetov and Almaty region governor Serik Umbetov for allowing construction at the foothills of the Trans-Ili Alatau. This resulted in a number of low-ranked officials losing their jobs. At the same time, elite mansions are still where they were 3 years ago, and Nazarbayev seems to no longer notice them during inspections of sports facilities. This construction speaks of the power of the country. For 9 years, the world is in crisis. There is not enough money. We see unemployment and layoffs at enterprises. So I was proposed to stop this construction and abandon the idea of hosting Asian Games. But I cannot do this despite all the difficulties. Perhaps the land issue will be raised again by the president on November 16th during his trip to Medeo. There he will witness the launch of a new cableway linking the popular skating rink with the ski resort Chimbulak. It is obvious from this height that officials took Nazarbayev's warning from 3 years back just as another unfulfilled threat.
Unfortunately, reporters of the famous Kazakh video portal Stan.kz were not able to cover the entire trip of the president to Almaty. The crew was stopped by the security of the head of state while attempting to enter the agrarian university where Nazarbayev was scheduled to hold several meetings. This despite reporters previously receiving an accreditation for the event. Stan.kz journalists say the president's administration has an unofficial blacklist of mass media, which includes a number of outlets disliked by the authorities.
It seems that Kazakh president's administration is trying to block reporters of the video portal Stan.kz from covering stories about Nursultan Nazarbayev. This was evidenced during the head of state's work trip to Almaty on November 15th, when Stan journalists faced an outright disregard of the constitution and the law on mass media. Despite the preliminary accreditation, the portal's crew was not found on the admittance list. You know that we always invite you when we have a chance. In this case, we simply approved the lists compiled and sent to us by the local administration. At the same time, the press service of the Almaty administration redresses the issue to the president's press service agency. Kolzhan Dauletov, as he made all the corrections. Also check your mail, because anyone who wanted to get accredited could do so through our newsletter. The head of the International Fund for the Protection of Freedom of Speech, Adilsos Tamara Kaleva, says that Kazakh authorities regularly prevent private and independent mass media like Stan.kz from attending official events. Stan and a number of other outlets are not among those privileged and loyal mass media companies that will cover events in favorable ways. The state body's decline of accreditation violates the law on mass media. This, however, needs to be proven first. Kaleva advises all companies who ended up in a situation similar to Stan.kz to ask for a written response and then appeal to the court for justice.
Gulbahram Junis, the head of the Kazakhstan 86 movement and one of those who pelted Vladimir Kozlov with eggs when he announced the intention to run for presidency, appealed to the head of state and a number of top-ranking officials, asking them to bring Kozlov to justice. Supposedly, the activist's intentions insulted all participants of December 86 events. In the meantime, Kozlov and his tandem partner Jasaral Kuanishalin talked to the public on Monday about the idea of an interim presidency.
The head of movement Zhaltoksan 86, Gulbahram Junis, asked the head of state, chairman of the National Security Committee and General Prosecutor's Office to bring to justice the leader of unregistered party Alga Vladimir Kozlov, disagreeing with her recent administrative penalty. By running for the presidency, he picks our old wounds. He knows well what it means to me. That is why we had nothing left to do but to appeal to the president. Zhaltoksan members were fined for disrupting a press conference of the political bloc Narodovlastia, the democracy. The nationalists were offended by the presidential ambitions of Vladimir Kozlov. The press conference in question ended in a brawl. On November 15, the essence of Kozlov's statements was discussed at a round table in Almaty. Two transit presidential candidates, Vladimir Kozlov and Zhasaral Kovanishalin, defended their ideas of political modernization. According to the oppositionists, an interim head of state is needed to shift from super-presidential to parliamentary form of government. If this idea of transit presidency will come through, there will be a way out of this deadlock created by Nazarbayev. This is our view, and we want to implement the idea. We just do not know to what extent we will be able to do it. Personally, I am afraid only of one person, that woman with eggs. However, not everyone present liked the initiative. Independent journalist Sergei Duvanov believes the interim presidents are not elected. Interim presidents come as a result of revolutions, revolts, or sudden deaths. It could come up if something happened to our nation's leader, God forbid. At the same time, Duvanov feels that charismatic and strong politicians who could hold the position of an interim president and lead the masses have no future in Kazakhstan. Dynamic leaders called lions by political analysts will never be tolerated by the current authorities.
Another appeal to the head of state was made on Monday by the business community. In their letter, entrepreneurs expressed their hope for an objective investigation into the ex-banker Margulan Sisimbayev, accused of embezzling funds of the Alliance Bank. Last week, Sisimbayev, who returned to Kazakhstan under the guarantees of an objective investigation and was released on bail, solemnly assured the public of his political loyalty to the current regime and asked all Kazakh citizens currently under investigation and abroad to return back home. On Monday, the press service of the head of state distributed a statement of entrepreneurs who hope for an objective investigation dealing with the former head of the nationalized bank. The document lists merits of Sisimbayev, who has been in business for 20 years and who voluntarily returned back to Kazakhstan and is now cooperating with the investigation on the return of Alliance Bank's assets. The appeal was signed by well-known businessmen including Nurlan Smagulov, Raimbek Batalov, Yerkin Kaliyev, Armanjan Baitasov, Kairat Satılganov and Saken Seyfulin. The relations between Sisimbayev and the authorities are obviously improving, unlike those of the state and another exiled banker, Mukhtar Ablazov. The conclusion was made by Kazakhstan's experts and political analysts after watching a segment of a popular Russian TV show ЧП, The Emergency, scandalously titled Bank Ringleader. The program aired last Friday, and its authors raised the question, who is Mukhtar Ablazov, a talented manager or ingenious fraud? Evidently, though, reporters of the NTV channel didn't really try to find an objective answer, as the so-called journalistic investigation was based on one-sided information, inevitably leading to the conclusion that the famous banker is indeed a fraud who allegedly stole $10 billion from Kazakhstan. According to the public and politicians of the country, the lack of counter-views as well as opinion of Ablazov himself speaks volumes about the commissioned nature of the program.
Tonight, all the details about the life of an investigation against Mukhtar Ablazov. The well-promoted program by a major Russian TV channel about the life of a famous Kazakh politician and a banker failed to bring expected results to its commissioners, believe the co-chairman of the party Azad, Bulat Abilov. The activist says that the order for the film came from the Kazakh authorities, and instead of creating a demonic image of a thief and swindler, the ideologies behind the show ended up portraying themselves in a questionable way. Common Russian everyman absolutely do not care who Ablazov is or what he does. On the other hand, I believe this film seriously damaged the image of Kazakhstan and Nazarbayev himself. Now the Russians will think about what's going on in Kazakhstan and that apparently the president is not as great as reported, since the largest bank in the CIS managed to withdraw billions of dollars. The commissioned nature of the program is confirmed by one of its primary participants, political analyst Tosim Satbayev. He says that the crew of the TV channel from Moscow contacted him about discussing the relationship between business and politics in Kazakhstan. Satbayev agreed but soon regretted the decision. Editors gave him and his colleague Nurlan Yerimbetov only a few seconds to express their opinions. He's like Kazakhstan's Berezovsky. He has serious money and he went into politics to save them. They attempted to direct the interview in the way they needed. It is strange that they cut my comment to the point where, out of 20 minutes we spoke, they left only one argument. At the same time, I've spoken in length about the authorities now having a serious political opponent. I compared him to a chess player who calculates several moves ahead. Hence, the authorities are actually defending against his attacks rather than playing the offensive strategy. Independent journalist Sergei Duvanov believes that common viewers who do not know about political subtleties and reporters' work might have taken the program at face value. Its main goal to introduce the idea voiced by the chief banker of the country that the exiled politician owes every Kazakhstan citizen $650 has been reached. People will believe it because they will never notice subtleties obvious to professionals like logical or factual flaws. Now this program will be shown 24/7 on Khabar to make sure all citizens of the country watched it. The main storyline in the film is clear, says communist Gaziz Aldamzharov. Indeed, construction in Moscow is suspended, but that is because Mukhtar Ablyazov was actively persecuted by Kazakh authorities for the last 2 years, although Russian journalists decided not to reveal this information for some reason. Aldamzharov feels the program actually shows Ablyazov's significance in Kazakhstan's politics. With this program, the authorities showed that they see him not only as a banker but also a political activist, and the fight is not against a banker but a political activist who is already present in the field now and who will be present there tomorrow. It is clear that the president's administration really wants to take down a political opponent and make everyone believe that he's a criminal. In this sense, Russian mass media is an excellent aid, as NTV channel is very popular across the entire CIS.
We decided to fill the gap in NTV's story and learned the opinion of Mukhtar Ablyazov on the accusations made in the Friday's program. Here is a part of our interview.
In general, everything presented in the program is lies from beginning to end. I think that the regime is preparing the next attack, and the authorities need some moral cover for criminal acts it plans to commit.
The entire interview can be watched right after the news from Kazakhstan in Russian.